Hello, freaks and Greeks. It's Carla. I'm here today in my kitchen for an episode of Where Cooking Begins. I'm making one of my all-time favorite recipes, one of my most favorite salads that I ever developed. This is Greekish grain salad, and it is drawn from some iconic figures in my life. I love Greek salads, an iconic dish. I love grain salads, one of the great food groups. And I love big salads, thanks to Elaine, AKA Julia Louise-Dreyfus. You are an icon and we love you. So between the Greeks, the grains, and Elaine, I'm gonna mash them all together and make something that is fresh and crunchy and has all of the great things about a grain salad and all of the things you want in a Greek salad, and it is awesome. Let's go there. Everything in this salad is going to be served cold, especially the vegetables. So the first thing that I'm going to do is cook my farro. This process actually started last night because before I like to cook farro, I always soak it. I'm on record, I'm a super soaker. I always soak my beans. I also always try to soak my grains. I'm saying farro. Farro is really the same as a wheat berry, and it's just the seed that's growing off of the wheat plant. I like to buy farro that is unpearled, which means that the whole outer hull is intact. And what I'm going for is like a nice, intact, al dente, delicious grain to bite into. So that's what it looks like when it's raw. And this is what it looks like when they've been soaked overnight. So I had the great pleasure of interviewing Maria Speck, who has written many different books about whole grains, and she really recommended and swore by the soaking. It tenderizes, it decreases the cook time, and it also makes the nutrients in this whole grain easier to digest and more available. So starting with my 1 cup of soaked farro, I'm gonna drain off the soaking liquid and then drop it into some boiling salted water. I always refer to this method for cooking grains as the pasta cooking method because it's really the same as you would cook pasta. Boiling salted water, add the grains as though it were pasta, and cook until al dente. The best way to find out if they're done is just to taste them. So you just want to come around every once in a while, give them a stir, give them a taste. These are perfect. Definitely al dente, but tender in the middle, nice and chewy, totally ready to drain. This is not a tricky recipe, but I do want to show you one trick. This is the best way to cool your grains. The grains are perfectly cooked, and I want them to cool down and not keep cooking. So the best way to do that is to spread them out on a baking sheet in kind of an even layer so that they cool down quickly and all that steam can escape. And then from here, you can always taste and season as they're cooling down, and they'll absorb those seasonings. While the grains are cooling down, I'm gonna get started on the dressing. I've got 1 large bunch of scallions already going. I'm gonna finish them up. I'm just thinly slicing these. So I think the dressing is where things start to get like Greek-ish as opposed to fully Greek. I think that's the thing about being inspired by a recipe as opposed to trying to replicate a recipe. When you're inspired, then like in a way you're collaborating with the original, and not that like every Greek salad in the world had a choice but to become part of my Greekish grain salad, but here we are. Another deviation, this red pepper, it's a Fresno. So I'm gonna thinly slice this on a mandolin. You can 100% do it by hand. On Borderline Salty, the podcast that I make with Rick Martinez, literally our most common question that people call in with is about mandolins. So many of you are afraid of mandolins, which is a healthy fear, like a fear of the ocean or a fear of a sharp knife. The episode where we talk about mandolin safety, I will link in the description. I want all these scallions and chilies in the salad, but I don't want them in the salad in just their like unadorned, raw, naked, sharp taste. So the next step I'm going to do is called blooming the aromatics. First things first, I'm going to add, I call this a 4-finger pinch of salt or 2. Basically You're not picking the salt up with 2 fingers, you're picking it up with 4. And I'm gonna toss and work the salt in to both season everything to kind of act as an abrasive and start drawing some of the liquid out. So you can see after even just a little bit of tossing, everything looks shiny and like slightly wet now. Okay, so once it's thoroughly salted, I'm gonna add the red wine vinegar. Now that the vinegar is there, this whole mixture is macerating or marinating. The vinegar flavor is really gonna soak into the scallion and chili. It's gonna help soften them. It's going to deflame them a little bit and get rid of that just hot kind of oniony heat that scallions can have. And everything's gonna get very juicy and become the base of the vinaigrette from this point. So I'm just gonna let it hang out 10 minutes. Grains are cooling down. We're using all of our inactive time, and it already looks gorgeous. Scallion, vinegar, chili, salt has been sitting and softening and relaxing and giving. I've got obvious other lovely Greek salad ingredients. My English hothouse cucumber. You could use any kind of cucumber here. I think a Persian cucumber or a lemon cucumber or those fabulous curly cucumbers would also be delicious. And in summertime, there's so many different varieties. So grab it. And then I've got black Cerignola olives, and this is totally controversial. You would expect to see a Kalamata or maybe an oil cured olive. And my food stylist, Susie Theodoro, who worked on both of my books with me, is Greek and was completely scandalized by my choice of Cerignolas in the salad. So to Susie and to all of the other Greeks and people who love Greek salads with an oil cured or a Kalamata olive, I apologize. I also prefer to buy my olives with the pits in them. They just tend to be a better texture, juicier, more delicious. And it's actually, unless it's like an insane quantity of olives, really easy to get the pits out by yourself. So we're doing a little smashing motion, like I was smashing a clove of garlic. And instead of slicing them, I'm just gonna tear them into craggy pieces. We love a craggy piece around here. And you can just kind of pull the flesh away from the pit like that. The pit is gonna pop out. And if there's any flesh left on the pit, just nosh on those. To me, anchovies are as important in a Greek salad as they are in a Caesar. I just really feel that they have to be there. So I'm taking 2 anchovies. I'm gonna mince this with a knife. You could definitely do it in a mortar and pestle. And I think in a pinch, a scooch of some anchovy paste, you could add that instead. So if I'm doing it on my board and I'm not using my mortar and pestle, I'll just use the edge of my knife blade, work the anchovies into a smoosh. A scooch of a smoosh. It looks like one big thing here, but when it gets tossed all up, it's gonna go everywhere. Here's our cool, perfectly cooked al dente farro. Everything I'm doing up until essentially this step after the cheese gets added can be done in advance, and this is a really nice portable salad if you get to this point and add your greens later. Toss to coat that vinegar scallion chili mixture is down at the bottom. So I wanna make sure that I'm dressing with the acidic ingredient and distributing everything before I go any further. It's always good in a salad to dress with the acidic ingredient before adding the oil, because oil is kind of a waterproof layer. And you could coat the vegetables with the oil, and then when you add the vinegar, it's really not kind of getting down to seasoning the actual pieces. Taste. Pretty good. Little chili heat, even just from doing that. I don't want to add salt yet because I'm adding the feta. Did you know that actually in order for it to be called feta, it has to be made in Greece? It's like a San Marzano tomato. It's like an origin food. If it's feta from anywhere else in the world, it's like a feta type cheese. This is from Bulgaria. Sorry. You could add feta to literally anything and I will like it more. And now for my favorite part of this recipe and any other recipe, the part where I drizzle an unmeasured amount of olive oil over everything, but tell you that it's the exact amount that I wrote in the recipe. Ta-da! It already looks like this right here is an amazing grain salad. Tasting for salt and peps. Doesn't need salt. This would be the place to hold if you wanted to take the Greekish grain salad somewhere else. I've got romaine. You could use little gems. You could use any kind of leafy thing that is happening for you in your world that you enjoy. And I also have some fresh mint. I love putting whole herbs into salads, like with and alongside and like as a lettuce. When you bite into the fresh herb, it cuts through just like the saladiness of it and brings that brightness. So when you see the exact amount of oil that I called for, you're gonna think that crazy woman and her crazy amounts of olive oil. But it really comes in handy here when you add all this lettuce and you still want the dressing to go everywhere. I just think it's so beautiful. This is my ideal salad because it is both a grain salad and a green salad. It has every single texture in the world and it is filled with feta, which is just up there with my favorite foods. And I want to eat this entire thing. I feel like when Elaine is sitting in the diner and she's like, can we just get a big salad? Why is it so hard to get a big salad? Like, this is what Elaine wanted. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus, if you are out there and you are still hankering for a big salad, give me a ring. I would love, love, love to make this for you. As it is, it's just me here today. I could take down a very large portion of this, like no doubt. I wish I was peeking at the Aegean Sea right now, but I'm not. I'm just here in my kitchen and it's Greek-ish and it's grains and it's salad and it's all mine. Olive, feta, grain, scallion, leafy, and then the chili flavor just went everywhere. Great texture, great amount of acidity, super fresh, super fun, super fab. Do I wish I was in Greece right now? Yes, of course I wish I was in Greece right now, but I'm not. You know where I am? I'm in Greek Grain Elaine. Planet Greek Grain Elaine, and let me tell you, the weather's pretty good.